I'm Tony Williams, and this is Brooklyn Savvy.
Hi, I'm Tony Williams, and welcome to Brooklyn Savvy. We are delighted to have the first African-American female coach for the NFL, and it's the New York Jets, right?
First female coach for Jets.
Oh, this is Colette Smith. But before we get to talking more to you about this incredible journey that you've made, I want to introduce our Savvy panelistas. We have Desiree Kinney, Nomiki McCrillis, and Maria De Longoria. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining. Now, Colette, when I look at you, the last thing I think about is football, quite seriously. When I see you, I don't see that. Yeah. So talk to us about how you got to football. Because I was reading in your biography that you were a ballet dancer, and I see that. A ballet dancer, but then you segued some kind of way into football, which was a passion. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, ballet was not a passion for me. Ballet was something I was told I had to do it.
Okay.
You know, growing up, I was a tomboy. So for me, being told I had to go dance, I was like, you're out of your mind? You know, so when my dad picks up the belt and says, we going right now, you going, right? So then I always wanted to play football. So my older brother was allowed to play. And so I wasn't because I was a girl.
Right.
You know, so when I was growing, I'm 50 years old, so back when I was growing up, it was different. Today you can't tell a girl you cannot play because you're a girl. But back when I was growing up.
You can't say it, but you can influence it.
Oh, and that happens still.
Right,
that happens.
Definitely still happens, right.
Yeah, unfortunately that happens, not on my watch, but it happens. So when I was growing up, I was told you cannot play because you're a girl. And you just had to eat it. That was it. So football was just always something I liked and wanted to play, but was never allowed to. And that, which makes me think about my mom not being able to ride the bus because she was black. You know, my grandfather having crosses burned on his business. He was a butcher in Mobile, Alabama.
Right.
You know, and so all of that it never sat right with me. I'm getting goosebumps right now. I want to do something.
I'm just kind of thinking about, so when I think of football, I think of heavy duty contact. So you wanted to do that.
I just wanted to play the football, the sport. For me, it wasn't about wanting to hit somebody or not. It was just a beautiful sport that I saw beyond tackling. Right, it was just strategy.
That's what people don't see. There's a lot of strategy, a lot
tons.
of yes.
Yeah, there's tons of strategy in football. That's the most beautiful part about it is knowing your opponent. It's the same thing dealing with your work environment. You know, you need to know who your managers are, who the ones that are going to back you, the ones who are not going to.
You need to know who's on what team.
You need to know who's on what team. Absolutely. Know your personnel.
Now, you didn't start this journey, or you tell us, at 42 years old, you did a tryout. Talk to us about that experience.
Oh, wow. That was exciting. So I did real estate for about a gazillion years, New York City real estate market. I worked for a top firm, made top money. Things were great. The market crashed. And I was literally at home messing around on the computer. And I wasn't looking for football. Why would I? Because that was shut down out of my brain, right? So I wasn't looking for it, but it just kind of fell into my lap. I'd like to say it was from God. He knew I needed it. And so I came across women's pro football tryouts. And I was smoking a cigarette. I was drinking a 40 ounce. And I was sitting in my house. And I looked down at the computer, and I was like, this can't be women in football. Get out of here, women aren't allowed. I said, this is for real. I said, well, tryouts are Saturday, I'm going, you know? And so I finished that cigarette, I finished that 40 ounce, and I started working out. And I went to tryouts. So it just kind of fell in my lap by way of God.
Right.
And I needed it. I needed it so bad in my life. I needed that strength, that sisterhood, that unity, that, you know, doing something I was told I can't to be powerful. It was I just needed it.
Now you mentioned that word.
I made the team.
Yes,
oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, but before we even go further, you talked about God. Talk to us about that. You said this was God that directed you. I like that.
Yeah, that's for me. Like you know what I find very interesting is that I was dragged to church as a kid my whole life, from my grandmama in the South to my mama who's from the South in New York. We went to church. And so God always played a big part in my life until I got to be a teenager where I was questioning things a lot. And if he loves us, people so much, why are all these problems? So I was questioning everything. And then it turned into me praying to God for a platform to help others. Like literally 5 days a week, I was praying. I would literally get on my knees and pray to God for a platform. I used to say, please, Jesus, make me important one day. Give me a platform so I can help other people. Because I'm nobody right now. I want to be somebody so I can help somebody else. And for years, I prayed that prayer. And then he gave me football.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, I was empowered.
I am where you are.
Yeah.
I understand that so deeply. You were going to say something, Maria. No. So let's talk about that football. But I want to get back to the football story. It was the Sharks, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about that whole experience. Being
Well,
at the Sharks
you
and
know-
then ending up with the NFL.
The women's pro football in itself, being there with my team, and listen, some of these girls I would never cross paths with. Never. I was the oldest chick on the team almost. So for me, these girls were girls. They were going out, hanging out. I wasn't doing I had my fill with that. Trust me, I really did have my fill with that back in the day. So, but it was a sisterhood. It was a way for us to push each other. I live alone, single, no man, got a dog who's a rescue. Everybody adopt, don't buy. And so when I watched the movie, there was no one to cry with or laugh with, so it was me alone, and I really needed some sisterhood. And so this team was just exactly that. And from people whose paths we never would have crossed. So for me, like even going through tryouts, we're in competition, right? We're in competition. And I remember I had an asthma, so I used to keep my asthma pump in my sock in case I got out of breath. And I'd be like, and I'd get back out there in the field. But it was like, don't stop, get it, don't stop. And I don't think I've ever had that kind of fire in my life, being a rape survivor and a suicide survivor. And for me, I just wasn't excited about life a lot of times. So this was my chutzpah. It was something that I had to have.
Empowered you.
Controlled.
That I control. Correct. Yes. Very valid point.
There's also a parallel, Colette, from being victimized and having a lot of trauma to being in a sport that you've conquered and have overcome, being with your own strength.
Correct.
So that's
It was
amazing.
very powerful for me. In fact, I remember at tryouts, I didn't even know who I was. So when they slapped that number across your chest and on your back, and they had you do football drills, which I had never done, like authentic football drills, I didn't know who I was because I was trying to tear everything up. And anytime anybody else was trying out, the women that were trying out with me, if they were tinkering out, I was like, let's go. You can do this. So it was like a hype up of them, which was hyping me up. And I remember at some point I said, who are you, Colette? Like who this person you never let out was in me the whole time.
And Colette, I love that you're talking. I know you mentioned you're 50. You definitely don't look it. You're
Keep drinking.
gorgeous. Only a little before set. But as a millennial woman, it's really inspirational to see you step outside that mold. As a millennial woman, we're constantly facing. We're looking at the Kardashians. We're looking at all these images of what we're supposed to be instead of defining who we want to be.
Right on.
And I love that you are creating that. I have a background in financial services. I walked in 10 years ago and I was like, where are the women? So when I first heard your story, it brought me to tears and it inspired me. And I think a lot of women, I think you've made an impact on the women's movement to say, hey, we're here, we're loud and proud, and we're going to be different. We're going to shock you.
But what
Right
I
on.
hear
Right on.
is the overcoming piece, which is now you said that you're a rape survivor and that you also are a suicide survivor. Both of those things are extremely heavy. But the fact that you share that and you're transparent around that, what makes you transparent around something that some people might want to keep to themselves?
So I hid it for most of my life, right? So I was 18 years old. I was a freshman in college, and my aunt's husband raped me. And I didn't tell anybody. Eventually, I told my boyfriend on campus. Mind you, this happened off campus at my aunt and uncle's home in Atlanta, Georgia, in Buckhead. And I didn't want to see anybody. I was like I shunned myself to my room. I didn't want to see anybody anymore. All my vibrance left. Like I was, but the freshman year you saw me on campus, I was like, what's up?
Yeah, right. And all of
And
a
it went
sudden,
from that to, yeah, how you doing? Yep, head down. And eventually it just got to the point where I was like, enough is enough. Like, this is wrong. No one's going to speak up about it. Well, hell, I am. And I remember the first time I really told somebody, I felt empowered. I felt like, good grief. My God, my shoulders are like up now, right?
Took yourself back.
Yeah, I took my, from pain to power,
Right.
you know? And then I used to have men, it was always the men that would say to me, you probably shouldn't use that word rape. It makes people uncomfortable. You shouldn't say that. And I'm like, excuse you, if you got shot with a gun and a bullet, I'm not going to say someone threw a bullet at you. You know?
So how did your family respond once you mentioned that this had happened to you?
So down south, my grandparents and my aunts and uncles down there were just pretty much like, oh, child, stop. Leave it alone. Just leave it alone. So that's what it was. Just shut up, sweep it under the rug, move on. We fried some chicken. We got some collard greens and some cornbread. So there you go.
Right.
And I wanted to eat, so I just ate.
Right.
You
Stuff it.
know what I mean?
Right.
So then it became me just being more vocal about it. But I still dealt with my family. Today I don't deal with them. Today as a since football. Since football, I remember
So football healed in a kind of a lot of
did it
ways.
ever?
Wow.
Healed me and made them suffer because they don't want to see me coming.
Exactly. Now, as a coach for men's football, how were you received? Meaning, because my son's a football player, and I hear all this macho talk. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in those locker rooms. How did you gain respect, or did they give it to you? How did that whole dynamic work?